Managing creativity versus creative management. I think that's a topic, as we have heard from Professor Schafmeister, that we are working on within the university here at MHMK. And I think in order to understand why this topic has kept our attention is because we are about 65% management faculty and 35% they're coming from the creative arts, from design, journalism. I call journalism also one of the creative arts, as well as film and television. And when we started to talk about this topic here at within this university, I think there was immediately this kind of polarization. On one side, the manager, and the other side, it was design. Professor Kolo and me, which we are working very close together. We had been the incarnation of this polarization a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago. There had been a lot of tension. But this, I think, this is not sometimes a good beginning, right? That you look at the differences at first in order to make clear what kind of qualities you bring on the table. And at a certain point, we started to overcome that. We started to look into what we have in common. It takes a while, right? In order to see what kind of synergy we could create through looking at this topic. And we came actually up with this kind of phrasing. Managing creativity versus creative management. And still, as a designer today, I'm not so happy with this kind of phrasing. Because as a designer, and a design theorist, I have a huge issue dealing with creativity. Because, and I think this is very important, creativity is a strange entity. And creativity is not a very useful concept for me as a designer. Because as a designer, I don't rely on creativity. And when I look a little bit into a definition of creativity, and this will explain you why I'm not so much relying on creativity, is on one side, the first is having the ability or power to create. When I look at a definition, having the ability or power to create. So for me, creativity has always to do something with my dog, which is already not there anymore in this world, right? Because he created a lot of mess. Yeah, he was so this was for me when I looked into the term creativity. The creature, the same original of the word creature, creativity, right? Creating something. That's not an issue. I think we all create things, but whether they make sense or they are useful is not included in this concept of creativity. Human beings are creative animals. It's another, that's the relation to creature, right? Because all the creatures, they create something. And for that reason, being productive, creating something. I think for me, this is not enough. This is very limiting. And with this kind of limiting concept, as a designer, I have really a hard time to work with. Or another definition is characterized by originality and expressiveness, imaginative. This is also, I think here it gets a little bit more interesting because imaginative, that's already something which might be a very interesting concept to work with. Originality, originality, a lot of people which are really original, they don't contribute in a positive way, right? And expressiveness, I think, is also a concept which goes very much towards this artistic realm, which I, as a designer, have some issues with. So for that reason, I have to say, when I look into the terms creativity, I think in the term creativity, I have my issues to work with this kind of concept. But I think working on this topic, creative management versus managing creativity, I also dig out sometimes, what has been already said towards a topic, and I came up with an interesting book I got from a library which sold it because it's not on the market. You cannot buy it anymore. It's called Creative Management, published by Jane Henry, and it's published in 2001. And I think it's already an interesting. It was when I found it. It already gave me an interesting sign, because 2002, when I was still in US, we had been also publishing a book which is called Managing as Designing, and it's also a parallel movement to this creative management movement, because both books had been published after a conference. So, and one of the persons which had been publishing about creative management is Teresa Amabile, and in her article "How to Kill Creativity" in this book, "How to Kill Creativity," and she thinks about creativity in management, and she comes up with 3 parts what is needed to create something in management. At first, there needs to be a motivation. You have to have a motive. Yeah, there needs to be a motivation. Secondly, you have to have some expertise. Without having some expertise, you cannot be creative in management. And the third part, you have to have some creative thinking skills, which is it's also a big fussy term. Creative thinking skills is like design thinking, right? Where you can subsume a lot of things underneath. And so when she, in her article, she also came up with the following, setting, talking about what managers can creatively do in their job. And I found this list, the list very interesting and very useful, where she says, look at, if I do, and she did a lot of research in order to summarize how managers can be creative, right? And she comes up with the following things. One of the challenges to match people with the right assignment. This is, I'm a manager on a daily basis because my main job is managing. And I think this is a great statement. If you don't match up the people with the right assignment, and very often managers do, you have a very weak organization, right? Because in my eyes, one of the responsibilities, if you don't get an assignment done, is usually the base for that is you didn't find the right person for the right job. Yeah, or you put the wrong person on the task. The second is freedom. I think freedom, that you give them objectives, and they have the freedom to figure out how to solve it. Very often it's reversed. Yeah, for me it's also very. This is really an interesting aspect of creativity. That you say, okay, the freedom, of the freedom is very important. That the person has the individual freedom in his job to perform, to solve it in the right way. But the way the person can solve the issue is open to the person. I think it's also very important that a manager needs to give the people time and resources. If I ask people to solve a problem or to take care of a task, and I don't give him the resources and the time, it's impossible. So this is my responsibility, and this is my creativity. This is my possibility of a manager. The fourth part is the teams must be functional. If I put a team together, last night we talked a lot about teams, yeah? If I put a team together which doesn't work, I'm responsible as a manager. Yeah, clear. This is my creativity. And I think IDEO, I love this video where Kelly says, I could have grown my company 3 times bigger, but I didn't because I didn't find the right people who work in a team. This is a great statement. Supervisors' encouragement. Rewards and critique. I am responsibility to give rewards and critique. Good rewards. I have rewards. I have to create incentive, and I have to critique. If I don't give positive critique is something very important because I saw that very often. If I don't take care of my people, right? If I don't take care of my people, I don't give critique, I'm not a good manager. And if I don't give rewards, I'm not a good manager. And the last part, organizational support. Organizational support is clear. What I have to do is, I have to make sure that the politic doesn't prevent. There's always politic when a couple of people are together. There's always politic, and if a politic can really prevent, is clear. And I have to make sure that the organization shares and supports the activity. I think these are the things she came up with in how to kill creativity. If I could took now the reverse position. I think if this is not happening in the organization, I had killed the creativity, which I totally second. So this is a part of her book. So this is one approach, and there is a second approach, which I think is also very important. It's a system perspective. And it's a very, I don't pronounce the name because, can you say it loud? Csikszentmihalyi. Yeah? Right. I heard it so many times in different contexts. So I always, you can, it's I can always point towards it. Yeah?
It's Hungarian.
It's Hungarian. Can you say it?
Csikszentmihalyi.
Right? Okay. Great. Yeah. So he was writing an article, a system perspective on creativity and creative management, and I think he said, therefore, what we call creativity is not a product of a single individuals, right? But of a social system making judgments about individuals' products. This is great. This is another aspect, and I tried to explain it afterwards. He also gave us, this is when I look into a company, an organization, I have to look at the culture. I need to look at the surrounding. It's not only the organization. I look at the surrounding, and I look at the personal background. In order to summarize the system perspective, if you have built an organization which doesn't appreciate, and this can come, usually it comes from the top level, the CEO doesn't appreciate creativity. So the culture in an organization doesn't appreciate creativity. So creativity has no space. Nobody will be creative because there's no reward, there's no systems. I think that's important. That's the system perspective. So there is I think, and I have experienced it also by myself in organizations, that if you can be as much creative, you can try to bring all the things on the table, as long as the environment doesn't appreciate because of the culture which you find, you will know it's impossible that an organization can show creativity.